Roll Tide, everybody. Welcome to Cover Crimson, another week, and I hope you had a great Memorial Day holiday, and you're ready to get back to the grind, because we're going to get back to the grind today on the show. We're brought to you by Pearl River Resort, Philadelphia, Mississippi. That's Clint Lamb. I'm Mick Gillispie, and before we get to your comments and questions, let me tell you guys thank you for being here, and let's hit the open. All right, there he is, Clint Lamb, Mick Gillispie. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Thank you guys for being here. Hit the bell. All things Alabama fans can do. Clint, great to see you. I know you can't wait to get into these mailbag questions.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of mailbaggish. We're letting the fans kind of dictate. On Friday, we talked about biggest concerns that fans have with the team in 2025 and the things that are the most encouraging. And the responses were so fantastic. I thought it would be a good idea to address some. And then as far as the concerns, we can talk about some of the pros or the most encouraging aspects and why that's correct, or maybe we disagree with some of them. And then also as far as like the concerns, maybe we can address some of them as well and kind of just hash it out a little bit. So we'll go ahead and dive right in. And, you know, there will be some overlap if we already address it as I'm working down the list. We'll say we address that. Maybe there's a point that one of these people makes that we haven't talked about that we can dive in a little bit further. So we're just going to see where this conversation takes us. But the BD James, fantastic commenter, always involved as far as watching the show. His biggest pros for Alabama in 2025 is the QB stability and the offensive line improvement. His biggest concern or concerns is the killer instinct on both sides of the football and the running back's effectiveness. Do you agree with that, Mick? Do you disagree? You know, I think the killer instinct on both sides of the football, that's an interesting point and something that not a whole lot of people brought up. But, I mean, based off of what we saw in 2024, I don't think that's an absurd take.
Well, it starts with quarterback. I mean, that's just how football's played, right? There was a time when Nick Saban came in and they could put anybody at quarterback and win. I remember Mike Johnson saying, well, what Alabama quarterback hasn't been successful? But then towards the end, it was really a quarterback-driven team. And so I think that's going to continue. So I think that's important. And for Alabama, you know, Ty Simpson's been there, done that. He's put the time in. He's kind of seen as the guy now. And so his success is definitely going to be Alabama's success. And I think that's part of it. And then the offensive line, we keep waiting for the offensive line to be good, but they haven't been. They've been okay, but they haven't been great. They've been good sometimes and then bad other times. I mean, I still think about that Vanderbilt game and I'm like, God, these guys can't block. So consistency there, or having a good season there, is super important for Alabama. You'd love to see Porter just kind of become, or Proctor become just kind of the guy that everybody thinks he can become, right? Like a real, you know, first round pick talent type guy. You know, the Kobe Bryant they were talking about, but when he was like a true freshman out there getting beat. And then the running back, I think a lot of that, just like quarterback play, depends on the line, right? And if you're blocking Jam Miller, we know he can run the ball.
Yeah, I was going back and watching some Jam Miller, and I understand where some people are kind of down on him. I have found myself down on him, not down per se, but maybe like last year, going into last year, I was viewing him as one of the better running backs in the SEC. Thought he could end up being one of the best running backs in college football. And so relative to that, I found myself kind of down on him based off of the results last year. But going back and watching, like, he's got some ability and he's got to get help with his offensive line. He's got to get a complementary passing attack that takes pressure off of him in the run game. He's got to be able to get into a rhythm a little bit more as far as committing to the traditional run game. Like, there's so much of the running back effectiveness that really doesn't have a whole lot to do with the running back. And that's where it's like, when I see some of those things improve around the running backs and guys are still struggling, it's like, okay, it's time to find some different answers because what they're doing is not working. But I do think that they have a good stable of runners. I think they are going to have a rotation. I think Jam Miller is going to be really good. Wouldn't be shocked if we saw some Daniel Hill. Think Richard Young's going to be involved. We'll see what happens with Draylon Washington. I'm still a fan of his. It's just I'm wondering, okay, is it 4 guys? Who's the odd man out if it's just 3? Like, these are all questions that I still have. So, yeah, that's something that I'll be curious to see. And Steve F., his number one concern, because it kind of plays into this, is the level of the play by the offensive line. And he said it needs to be elite. That is everything, in my opinion. And he's 100% correct. Like, you can have the best running backs in the world. You can have the best quarterback in the world. Granted, Peyton Manning, he could make his offensive line look pretty damn good. Why? Because he would understand where to go with the football. If he didn't have a great offensive line in front of him pre-snap, he could win those games. He could get the football out quick. And it was like just defenses, the elite pass rushes really didn't have a chance to affect him or the Colts offense. And I guess for a portion of his career, the Broncos offense. And so, like, unless you've got that caliber of player, you know, your quarterback's only going to be so good if he's not getting the protection that he needs. It is absolutely everything. Steve F., he also mentioned the thing that he's most encouraged by are all the player-led activities this offseason. Mick, as far as the leadership is concerned, and I'm pretty sure some other people, actually Bama Gardens brought up most encouraged by the veteran leadership. How do you feel about where this team is trending as far as we know leadership is super important, and we know Kalen DeBoer, he likes his teams to be player-led teams. He wants to police themselves, but you've got to have some dudes who are willing to step up and kind of take that responsibility. How are you feeling about that going into 2025?
I've liked what I've heard from the players, like Tim Keenan coming out and some of the stuff that he said, and Parker Brailsford. Every time he talks, you're like, man, this guy's he's a leader. You know, he's got it. So I think they feel like they don't want to be the ones that like blew it. You know, and last year's team blew it. Like they didn't live up to their potential. It wasn't just the record. It's that they should have been a college football playoff team, and they were clearly on the bubble. They should have gotten in based on, you know, my calculations, but they didn't. And it's their fault because they put themselves in a position where they left it up to the committee. And so for them to get back to being Alabama, where people are afraid to play Alabama, they're going to have to go out there and grind and be tougher and quicker. And, you know, they're going to have to be stronger, and smarter, you know, all the things that go into it, more physical. I mean, so it starts with work ethic and discipline. And it feels like these guys, at least they're saying the right things when it comes to that.
Sometimes you got to touch the hot stove, right? As a kid, sometimes that lesson, you can't be told, don't touch the stove. It's hot. It's going to burn you. Sometimes you got to find out for yourself. Alabama last year, a lot of these players who had been kind of around, and the standard was set a certain way, and it had led to you really don't lose more. I mean, the occasional 3 games, but I mean, even that was pretty rare. It was like you don't lose more than 2 games at Alabama. It was because of that standard and the little things that you did every single day that added up to contribute on Saturdays. Last year, when Kalen DeBoer, who's a lot more laxed as far as his approach, or some people view it that way, I mean, he definitely is relative to Nick Saban. It's like some of these players had to test that. And it's like, hey, when you get away from doing things the right way, all the little things, and those stop mattering to you as much, next thing you know, you lose 3 games in the regular season and you finish with 4 losses for the first time since 2007. So, hey, maybe we got to stick to doing the little things right and holding that standard. Nick Saban doesn't have to be present for that standard to be there. He might be the enforcer, or was the enforcer for a very long time, but you had a lot of players like Julio Jones showing up several years later. We hear that story, and seeing a wide receiver, you know, pitching a fit, doing some 7-on-7, you know, summer work or whatever, and he drops a ball or something happens and he's freaking out, and Julio pulls him to the side. He's like, we don't do that here. You know, that's a guy who had not been around for a while, but he was a player who had adopted that mentality. It didn't matter if he had been gone for 10 years. You know, he was still going to let somebody know at Alabama, we don't do things that way. Your players, your active players can have that same mentality. I think getting back to that, becoming more disciplined, doing the little things right more consistently. Kirby Smart's constantly having to reinforce that. I think, you know, Kalen DeBoer, his teams, they do a lot of the little things right. They wouldn't have the success that they have or have had if they didn't. But it's getting that marriage between new head coach, new culture, new environment with what you already had. I think we've talked about it. Maybe the players rebelled, like they didn't like Kalen DeBoer. It was just you had a little bit more freedom and you ran with it. But they figured out, hey, if you want to run with it and get that extra freedom, have that fun, be late for meetings, do all those things, it results in 4 losses. So if you want 4 losses again, keep doing that. It's like now you kind of have something, and it's like, hey, it doesn't matter that we're Alabama. If we don't do the little things, we can absolutely lose 4 games in a season and maybe even more. So that's what kind of has me encouraged, is that sometimes you got to learn a lesson the hard way. But it seems like last year they touched a hot stove and they got burned by it.
Well, you're Alabama too, Clint. I mean, every time you walk out on the field, every team that you play wants to beat you. And the reason that they didn't lose a lot of games is because Nick Saban never let them rest, never let them relax, never let them feel like they had that. You know, like every week was going to be a battle and they better be ready for it. Last year, we relaxed. Hey, we beat Georgia. We got a week off. We're gonna win. They lose to Vanderbilt.
That's a great point. And Bama Gardens, also their biggest concern was not being able to play to a standard regardless of opponent. So that speaks to exactly what you're talking about, Mick.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's what, you know, DeBoer's, he has to be kind of looking at what Saban did there and probably thinking, you know what, I'm going to learn from this. He's a smart guy, and he's made adjustments throughout his career. He's got just an absolute treasure there with Coach Saban. He's going to learn. And there's no doubt in my mind. He's going to learn. He's going to talk to him. He's going to go in there and basically, hey, what do you think about this? Or I just can't imagine him not doing that. And the thing you love about DeBoer is he's a humble guy. You know, I don't think he's the type of person that would be so headstrong that he's not going to take advantage of that asset, right? And that's where the team fell short last year.
Complacency destroys everything. Comfortability, people who get comfortable in their lives, it's always like a lot of your success stories, your massive success stories are built through adversity in the hard times. Like, you ever notice that? You might have the occasional person who was raised in a very wealthy family and dad was just a phenomenal businessman and built this empire, and then you've got son following along and do it. But that's a lot more rare than the person who has to grind and develops this mindset through life's adversity. You know, you look at like how Alabama behaved under Nick Saban, kind of complacency with him, and like Ed Orgeron, good example, a guy who seemed to be hungry. I mean, at one point in time, I mean, he would be coming. You know, that's what he was saying. Like, there was no backing down. There was no, like, you could tell with Ed Orgeron, there was a hunger there to be successful. And when LSU won a national championship in 2019, the belief was, okay, Nick Saban's getting towards the end of his career. Like, people always try to push Clemson and Dabo Swinney. And granted, you know, there's been some staying power with him, but like LSU started to become that conversation because Georgia wasn't up there yet with Kirby Smart, was still going through that process. And everybody said LSU, with the recruiting bed that they've got down there in Louisiana, with the fact that they've got the SEC ties, it's a big brand. LSU is going to be a problem. LSU hadn't really been that much of a problem from a national championship perspective since, and it's been five years, going on 6. So we'll see what happens this season. But complacency that destroyed, as soon as Ed Orgeron got that national championship, he had achieved. And everything changed. And the next thing you know, LSU's kind of fallen off where they were worse than they were way before he got there. And then it's been kind of a build back process with Brian Kelly, who's, you know, hungry. Kirby Smart, I'll give him credit. He learned under Nick Saban. The complacency aspect of it, he deals with it. It's impossible not to deal with it, but Nick Saban managed it better than anybody I've ever seen. First of all, he didn't have it himself, and that was big, but he also understood he was not like everybody else, so it was getting everybody else to fight against that. That was his biggest obstacle. Alabama would have won at least 2 or 3 more national championships if Nick Saban just could have gotten guys to buy into not being complacent. I'm telling you, that is, I mean, it was always a problem. That's why it's tough to win back-to-back national championships, and you damn sure have a hard time winning 3 in a row, because once you've gone 2 years, it's like a majority of your program, they've either been there for 1 and they know that you've won 2, or they've been there for both, and it's like we just show up and we win, and then you end up getting beat by people you're not supposed to. Like, that's how that happens. Kalen DeBoer is human. He is not Nick Saban. Doesn't mean like there's only one Nick Saban. No one will ever be that. Yeah. But you can tell Kalen DeBoer, like the Georgia game, it was a perfect example. Next week against Vanderbilt, you were complacent. Everybody was singing your praises. You had just accomplished something massive. Not only had you beat the hell out of Georgia for a half of football, but also you had figured out a way to hang on. Miraculous, fun win. Same thing happened as far as, hey, we're trending towards the playoffs again. We got Oklahoma coming up, but really they're not a very good football team. Probably didn't take them as seriously as they should have. Michigan in the bowl game. What are we doing playing a 7-5 Michigan? We almost got it to the playoffs. Half their teams opted out and not participating. You end up getting beat. Like, that is something that Alabama has got, and a lot of coaches, like, they learn from these mistakes, and hopefully Kalen DeBoer does, but complacency is a very, very big aspect of this, Mick.
Guys, we appreciate that Pearl River Resort's part of our team. Dancing Rabbit Golf Course is the Augusta you can play. 2 awesome courses, the Azaleas and the Oaks. You don't need a membership. It's the Augusta that you can play, but they've put millions of dollars into that course. It really is amazing. When you pull up to it, you go to the clubhouse. I'll be hanging out there with Coker today and tomorrow. You get the idea that this is pretty cool. And it's an hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, 2 and change from Birmingham, right there by Silver Star and Golden Moon Casino, with the amazing slots and table games and the Timeout Sports Lounge, the water park and the spa, all that at Pearl River Resort. So is that, what's the most encouraging sign then, Clint? I mean, is it that, like we were talking about, maybe that DeBoer's kind of talking about that that's going to be a tough summer for these guys, or what do you think?
I think he's saying and doing the right things. Here's the thing. I think for 2025, you're pretty locked in. If you want to talk about being encouraged, and we'll get back to what people are most encouraged about or most concerned about. For me, though, I think one of the most encouraging things is the hunger seems to be there. It's been a while since Alabama's won a national championship. Last year, losing 4 games left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, certainly fans, but I think a lot of the players, they wanted to come back and prove something. We saw it from Ohio State players prior to last season. I think the coaching staff, it left a bad taste in a lot of their mouths. And I think that Alabama's got the talent. I think they got the coaching staff to where they're going to compete for a national title in 2025. Doesn't mean that they'll win it necessarily. And if they don't, then the hunger probably continues. But what will go from being one of the most encouraging aspects of 2025, which is that hunger, that will quickly go to being one of my biggest concerns if Alabama does, in fact, win the national title in 2025. And that will be for 2026, of course, which is, all right, you've gotten over the hump. How do you stay hungry? Because before, that was one of the biggest things you could always bank on. Is it's not a guarantee that it's going to happen, but you have nobody better to handle that success and making sure it doesn't become a complacency problem than Nick Saban. So we'll see how that goes. And that's if they win it. There's no guarantee they win the national title this year. But I do think from 2024 is certainly helping from a motivational, standpoint. Jared Adams, he says the thing that he's most excited about is the defensive line depth, talent, and leadership returning. Also, the offensive weapons. The biggest concern, QB play, O-line play, and special teams. And he even said, I don't even know who our kickers are. So we really don't talk enough about special teams. And I've had to remind myself, and we've addressed this before, but when you are talking about concerns, I believe in Connor Talty. We haven't seen it, so I don't know definitively one way or another. We're going to have to wait and see until we get out there. I had a big belief in Graham Nicholson last year, because I mean he was the Lou Groza Award winner. He was just expected to be one of the best kickers in college football, and he transfers in from Miami of Ohio. I mean, he certainly wasn't a strength. I wouldn't say he was like a liability by any means. He didn't have a ton of opportunities, but you know, we don't even know who the punter is going to be at this point. We think it's going to be the freshman who was injured all spring, but special teams, the two specialists, the two of the three specialists, I guess all three actually, because long snapper too, with Neal and Hibbett moving on, even though Bird, we think it's going to be him. You know, specialist is probably a big concern right now if you're an Alabama fan. And it's not, maybe concern's the wrong word. It's one of the biggest question marks that we have no idea.
I'm concerned. I mean, I think it's a concern for sure.
What are you more concerned about, kicker or punter or
both? I mean, like,
okay.
I mean, the punter, you know, like, oh, we heard he was good, you know, like, so hopefully they address this in the, you know, the fall practice really soon, you know, and they must be confident enough they didn't go out and get anyone in the portal that those guys are going to be okay. But that's the bad part about spring football. When you're hurt, you don't get a chance to see what someone can do. And that's an area where Alabama definitely needs somebody to, you know, to be the guy there.
Yeah, I mean, specialist is one where it's like, I'm going to give you that because I don't have anything like it could work out great for Alabama. It could work out very poorly. You got to have an adequate punter. We've seen when Alabama hadn't had an adequate punter, how that can flip field position that's not in your favor and can really make it harder to win games. And we know that you got to have a field goal kicker. You got to be able to knock down big kicks. You're going to be playing in close games. It's too tough of a league. It's too tough with the NIL and stuff, the parity. You got to have a kicker who can hit those. I mean, it could be missing an extra point. It could be missing a chip shot field goal. It could be missing a potential game-winning field goal. Like we even know Will Reichard has a chance to win Alabama the Tennessee game a couple of years ago in Knoxville, misses the kick. And then, of course, Tennessee goes down there and their kicker hits it. And it's like Alabama loses a game as a result of that. Lewis Hinton, he said his biggest concern is quarterback play, which we've seen a lot of that, Mick. But he said he's most encouraged by the wide receiver room and the defense. And he says, hope they are not on the field the whole game. Championship caliber teams beat the teams they are supposed to beat easily. Mick, I will push back on that a little bit. Ohio State beat a 6-6 Nebraska team 32-21 this year. You know, they were kind of in a dogfight with Nebraska. Ohio State actually lost to a 7-5 Michigan. Now, granted, Alabama did too in the bowl game, but Ohio State won the national championship, and they lost 13-10 to a 7-5 Michigan. Michigan the year before in 2023, they beat a 7-5 Maryland team 31-24, so they were in a dogfight with them. You go back to 2022 with Georgia. Georgia beat Kent State by 17 points, 39-22. The following week they beat, or it was either the week before or the week after, they go to Missouri, who finished 6-7 that season, and they only beat them 26-22. And they also beat a 7-6 Kentucky just 16-6. So really the last team that handled business in like all of their games, or pretty much all of their games, was Georgia in 2021. They barely beat a really good Clemson team that won 10 games. They got beat by a really, really good Alabama team. But other than that, they kind of handled their business against everybody else, and it was dominant fashion. But in an NIL world, people just need to understand there's probably the thing is, don't lose the games you're not supposed to lose. Right. It's not a, hey, you got to, if you're supposed to beat them by 20, beat them by 25, you know, nothing like that. Just don't lose. Figure out a way to win in some of those tight games that shouldn't be tight. It's a tough league. I mean, college football is tough. So I understand what he's saying, but I also wanted to push back a little bit, and you're going to have to win some close games, probably against some opponents that you shouldn't be playing close games against.
That's it, man. You said exactly what I think. Hey, Father's Day's coming up. Rhoback.com, room 20. That is our 20% off at Rhoback.com. I was there yesterday looking because I'm going to take advantage of this code here. And there's some really cool Bama shirts now. Like they have upped their Bama polo shirt game. So I'm like, well, do I want the one with the waves? Do I want the miniature stadiums? You know, they're pretty cool. But Coker likes anything like patriotic. You know, they have one that has like red, white, and blue bunting all over. He's like, if I got one, yeah, America, he loves that stuff. So anyway, you guys take advantage of that. Room 20. Every email address that you have gets a room 20 code. Wink. All right. Well, where do we go from here, Clint?
Well, there's two more that I at least want to bring up. One of them's from Curtis Freeman, and he also said the thing that he's most worried about is quarterback play, but it was the comment that I kind of wanted to address. He said, Ty may be good at some point, but the SEC doesn't really allow for learning on the job. I mean, really it does. I mean, I wouldn't say it's ideal for it, but I mean, any quarterback that's new is going to have to learn on the job. Like Jalen Milroe a couple of years ago, he wasn't very experienced and he had to learn on the fly. He certainly had to learn on the fly when he came against Texas A&M when Bryce Young was injured. I mean, DJ Lagway last year, he had to learn on the fly. Lenore Sellers, like these are anybody that didn't have experience when they get thrown. Is it the ideal circumstances? Would it be better if they could go learn and develop and be experienced, maybe, you know, in the Big 12 or something? And then after they get some college experience and know what it's like, then move to the SEC. Like transfer portal certainly helps that. If you're John Mateer, you're a lot more set up for success at Oklahoma because of everything you did and the experiences that you had at Washington State. But I mean, I understand the quarterback play concern. Obviously, there's a lot of people who are in that, but I don't think that should be something every year. Doesn't matter who's the starting quarterback, they're gonna have to learn on the job. Biggest concern for Jay Moneyman is Bama's pass rush. He says, don't believe Quay is an elite pass rusher, a run stopper, yes. A quarterback killer, I don't think so, and we need one. Mick, are you worried about Alabama's pass rush?
I mean, I feel like that was, to me, that was a surprise last year that it was pretty good, you know. And then you got LT Overton back. He was constantly a disruption. I think they'll be all right in that area.
You know, last year it was like the turnovers were phenomenal.
Yeah.
You would like to see a little bit more consistency. LT Overton's got to finish, but I mean, I think they got some interior disruptive pieces. Like if James Smith, there's banking on some things. It's expecting James Smith to be an interior presence. It's expecting a 10 pounds lighter Quay Rusall being a little bit more twitched up, a little bit more effective. It's maybe getting some complementary pass rush as far as from some of those other guys, like as a situational pass rusher. What is Yanze Pierre? Can Justin Hill get involved? You know, like there's banking on some of that stuff. I get it. But, you know, for me, I think the pass rush is going to be okay because I think they've got a lot of talent and there's been a massive emphasis. And we've seen what this coaching staff can do when there's a major emphasis on things defensively. And one of the major emphasis is, that's a tough word to say, last year
say it 3 times
was turnovers, and they finished top 5 nationally in turnovers. They were, I mean, it was like every week they were getting 2, 3, sometimes 4. It's like so I mean, I think they're okay with that. Jason Basenberg, he said his biggest concerns are right tackle and interior defensive line depth. The right tackle hasn't shown me he's ready for prime time. Love the starters on defense, but if Keenan and Smith go down, we are screwed. I feel a lot better about the interior defensive line depth, Mick, because of Edric Hill, because of Jeremiah Beeman. I think they're going to be really good players. I think Beeman in particular, like Edric Hill, certainly, especially situationally, like as an interior pass rusher, maybe complementing what James Smith is doing or adding to it or whatever. But Jeremiah Beeman, I mean, I've just been hearing buzz about this guy. I don't think he's going to be a starter, but I think Alabama runs too deep. Tim Keenan is a really good player. I think he's backed up by a really good player in Beeman. I think James Smith is going to be really good. I like where Edric Hill is heading, and I think he's going to be a nice quality depth. And then, Kelby Collins, him playing on the interior some, maybe full-time, but at bare minimum some. I feel good about I feel good about the interior rotation, probably more than I do about the depth at right tackle, just because, we've heard about Olasolinen and the improvements that he's made at left tackle. We've seen it a little bit. Would expect him to actually be more effective on the right side, even though we haven't really seen it yet. if he was forced to play right tackle. We'll see what happens with Michael Carroll and Jackson Lloyd, but it's still banking on some things that maybe I'm not as confident about as I am about the improvement on the interior of the defensive line. So understand Jason, at least on the right tackle, would push back a little bit on the interior defensive line depth, but there's a lot of Bama fans who agree with you. So just wanted to put that out there as well.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I hated to see Payne transfer to Michigan. I've said that on here before. You don't want to lose those interior guys, and especially interior guys that have experience and leadership, and and there's a reason why Michigan wanted him, and but that's going to happen. I mean, it's transfer portal. Hey, maybe I want to go spend a year back home playing football for the team there. Who knows? But at the end of the day, they've just got to keep recruiting. And we talk about recruiting, whether that's high school guys or the transfer portal. And then when they get them there, those guys, need to be. You got to hit on them, and that's it. Especially the transfer portal guys. I mean, you spend all that money on these guys that come in, and they need to take care of business, right? Overton's a great example of it. And you know what? Transferred in, he's been great.
Damani Jackson.
Yeah, Damani Jackson too. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not as worried about the defensive line. Getting pressure on the quarterback. I'm more worried about those games where we couldn't stop the run. And I know football really isn't played like that much anymore. Everybody throws the ball. But that Vanderbilt game, we just could not stop the run. And I mean, in Oklahoma, it felt like that. Hey, we're just going to run the quarterback. Then the quarterback couldn't even run at Oklahoma, and he still ran all over Alabama. So that's the concern to me. And what is that, linebacker? So when I see Deontay Lawson, I'm like, hey, if he can come back and be healthy, it's going to help us out a lot. But it's just hard to do everything. It's amazing how Nick Saban had a team that got all stuff done.
Well, I mean, and when he would put an emphasis on something like improving the exterior pass rush, like Alabama, Courtney Upshaw was a good player, but more of a big-bodied edge setter type. But when Alabama put an emphasis on, we want some dudes out there on the exterior. They went and they got Will Anderson, Chris Braswell, Drew Sanders for a period. Quandarius Robinson, who was good. I think he's going to be better in the NFL. Dallas Turner, he put an emphasis on it, and bam, he wanted improved play at the quarterback position as far as kind of evolving with college football from more of a game managing type to, the Tuas of the world, the Bryce Youngs of the world, the Mac Jones of the world. That he was able to go out there and kind of change the dynamic of the quarterback position. It's not as easy as a lot of people make it out to be, though. Georgia's been trying to fix its wide receiver room for quite a while, and they've been having some trouble. We'll see what happens this year. They brought in a lot of guys, and they're developing pretty decently. But, stopping the run, I think Alabama's going to be improved there. I agree with you with what you're saying with Damon Payne. Like, he would have certainly helped in that area. Thought he was a good two-gapping, run-stopping style of defensive lineman. But, I think Deontay Lawson being healthy, one of the things about it is it was really the triple option style of stuff. Like, Vanderbilt brought some elements of that. I thought Alabama did a pretty good job against Lenore Sellers and his dual threat ability. Like, I heard where someone mentioned Alabama struggled with dual threat quarterbacks last year. To an extent, that's true, but like Lenore Sellers, they kept him in check as far as his legs. Nico Iamaleava, I think he had one good run. Other than that, I don't think he was super effective as a runner. Obviously, Diego Pavia, more of like some triple option elements. And then, Oklahoma, with the limitations that they had at wide receiver, they really adopted some of that with Jackson Arnold, kind of, I think, caught Alabama by surprise and had a lot of success with it. Castellanos for Florida State with Gus Malzahn, who is known for kind of being a wizard with rushing quarterbacks. Alabama will probably need to be expecting some of that in week one, especially given that they've gonna have had the entire offseason to kind of prep some of it. Some of the things that Vanderbilt did and some of the things that Oklahoma did on the ground with a quarterback that gave Alabama trouble, they need to be expecting some of that from Florida State in week one. If they're not prepared for that, that is going to be a huge red flag for me, because while Florida State has plenty of time to kind of implement as much of that as they want to. Alabama's got plenty of time to learn how to stop it and kind of anticipate that a little bit. So that is something to keep an eye on.
You guys that are already tuned in to us on Spotify and Apple, our podcast, thank you. And if you're not, Clint, tell them how they can listen to the show anytime, any place, anywhere.
The Cover Crimson Podcast Network on both Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcast, pretty much. We're growing that side of things. We really need y'all's help on that. The call to action stuff that a lot of people do. Hey, like, subscribe, do all those things. Always appreciate it, and certainly appreciate the comments. And, a lot of the participation that we got on Friday's video certainly helped us as far as the content for today. If you have a concern or, something that you're feeling good about, certainly comment that on this video, because we'll continue to address some of these as we work our way through the off season. But when we say call to action and we need y'all's help, in the biggest way. Go to the Cover Crimson Podcast Network on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Click the follow button where, do the automatic downloads. I mean, even if you don't listen to them, just simply doing the downloads, that's how the algorithm works. We certainly, if that's how you want to consume your content, we certainly encourage that. But if you like the YouTube side of it, still go do that for us, because the more people we can get on that side, we've got some things in the works. We're going to plan to make this product even better for the people who are wanting certain people to join. And we're trying to grow this thing, and we've got a chance and we've got some plans, but we need y'all's help. So definitely go and follow or subscribe or whatever you want to call it as far as the podcast. That would very much benefit us.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is covercrimson.com. Clint's on there pounding out the pavement every day. We appreciate you guys for being a part of it, too. $25 off the annual right now, so $75 for the year. Talking baseball. Baseball's in a regional at Southern Miss. Softball out, lost to Oklahoma, got swept in the super regional. Talking football. All of the things that we get onto here, covercrimson.com. And I was going to say, Clint, what do you got going on over there?
Continuing the player rankings, obviously took a few days off. Memorial Day, didn't do one yesterday, but going to be having that coming out later today. Already done 2 sets of 3 players, going to be putting out the third, ranking all of them outside of the summer enrollees who are actually just now getting onto campus, by the way. There's, I think, about 5, maybe 6 of them. A couple of transfers, 3 or 4 freshmen. Those guys are certainly going to benefit the roster and the depth of the team. But for the rankings and stuff, we're going to include the transfers, but not those freshmen. Everybody else, JUCO players, freshmen, early enrollees, returning players, transfer portal, all of them are being ranked over at covercrimson.com. And I don't just rank them and do something quick. I kind of dive into each player, tell you what they do well, what they don't do well, how they fit in, and do projected roles. So hopefully people are enjoying those so far, and we can continue to kind of flesh those out and stack this ranking system.
Guys, a couple things too. Use our promo code Crimson, newlifeart.com. You get buy one, get one off on anything at New Life Art with the promo code Crimson. And then we're brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Coker and I are going to be there. I'm heading there right after this show. And we'll talk about the baseball regional. We're going to try to get Steve Azar on, Elephant in the Room, the guy that sings the song Me Till Monday, and one of our good friends. We'll talk Alabama football, the quarterback situation, all that. But Pearl River Resort, hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, 2 and change from Birmingham, really wherever you are in this part of the country. It's not that far. Dancing Rabbit Golf Course, if you're a golfer, it's the place you want to go check out. It's the Augusta you can play. 2 really amazing golf courses, the Azaleas, the Oaks. You don't have to have a membership. The clubhouse is great. You got the sports book, which is like a Vegas-style sports book at Golden Moon Casino. 20 big screen TVs, full-size bar. You can bet on any of the games going on now around the country. It's fun. Around the world, really. But table games and slots, Geyser Falls, the water park's open now, the spa, all that at Pearl River Resort. Hey, talk to you guys tomorrow. Enjoyed it, Clint. Roll Tide, everybody.
River Resort.